In the last video, we talked about how event can cause memory leak if we don't remove them on component unmount manually. In this video, we will talk about how a self-declared variable can cause memory leak and how we can prevent it. Let's look at the diagram that we have here. First, it may seem a little confusing, but don't worry, I'll explain everything step by step. So as you can see, here we have a small function which is setup listener, and inside this function we have a self-declared variable. As you can see, this variable is not declared with any keyword like var, let or const. There is no keyword here, but it still has some value, and value is an array with length of 1000, and that will be filled with this fire icon. After this line, we are just simply console logging element that is on the 0th index of this array. So here what will happen, our code, when it will start executing, it will create a global context, and definition of this function will be go inside memory creation, and at the time of memory creation, the definition will be stored inside a heap memory, as function is an object type. So the definition will be saved here, and then the reference will be passed to our stack memory. After saving the reference of this function, what will happen, our execution phase will check our program line by line and check which line needs to be executed. So here we are calling this function. So this function will be called in an execution phase, and as soon as this function gets called, this function will create its own execution context, which will be a local execution context. So as soon as this function gets invoked, here is a line where we are creating a variable with array length of 1000, but there is no declaration keyword, you can say val, let or const. Because of that, this variable will be stored inside a global execution context inside this memory creation. So this variable will go inside a global heap memory and will be stored here, and as array is an object type, it will be in a heap memory, and this array's reference will be passed to our global stack memory. Now when we will reach to this line inside our local execution context, inside this execution context we have an execution phase also, and in execution phase we are executing this line console log save on the 0th index. So this console log will take a reference from the global stack memory, and it will console log data from here. Now after this function gets executing or finished executing, this local context will be destroyed. But as this variable is being stored inside our global memory, it won't be destroyed or won't be garbage collected. It will stay here forever until we clear the memory or close the tab. Now this scenario will only happen if we use a self-declared variable. But if we use let or const inside this function scope, as this function has its own scope, so what will happen, this array will be created inside the scope of this function. Means that array will be stored inside here, inside this local execution context of this function. So whenever this function will be finished executing, this whole local context will be destroyed, and this variable as well. Now in the modern JavaScript, we mostly use strict mode. So this only happens in non-strict mode, but in strict mode there will be an error as safe data is not defined. Now what will happen if we are using strict mode, this self-declared variable will give us an reference error with safe data is not defined, and it will prevent our program from memory leak